What's up, guys? On today's episode, we are talking all about real estate coaching, what it means to coach and what it means to be coached. We have Stephen Kim and Sedge Park from the Stephen Kim Group to talk all about it. So if you guys are interested or thinking about coaching and you don't know where to go, you don't know what it entails, you need to watch this video because Stephen gives us some great insight to how coaching can affect your real estate production. So without further ado, this is my friend Stephen Kim with the biggest heart in the industry, and in his own words, be great, be kind, take a listen. Hey guys, thanks for joining us. It's time to get serious now. We have Stephen Kim and Sedge Park. I got that right, Sedge?
Yeah, you got it.
Right?
Yeah.
Be great, be kind, everybody. I just made it up. But we have got these guys here. They've traveled all the way from Toronto, and they are going to talk to us about coaching and agent production. So Steve is a coach with Tom Ferry, and Sedge is...
Client of Steve Kim.
Sedge is he's modest, okay? He's Steve's go-to. He's his number one sales rep. So we're going to talk about Steve coaching and how he got in the industry, because he does have a very interesting story. And then we're going to talk about the effects of his coaching on his protege Sedge. So it'll be a little interesting. We're going to throw some jokes because we are friends here and we do know each other quite well. And we hope you guys enjoy. So, with that being said, thanks for dressing up, Stephen. I appreciate that. Like, agents always have to wear a t-shirt. Yeah, agents always have to dress their best. So we do appreciate that. All right, so let's just jump right in, guys.
Tupac.
I love it when they call me Big Pop.
That's
Biggie.
not Tupac.
That's Biggie. All right, so Steve, give us some background.
So Tyler, first and foremost, thanks for being so gracious to have us come out here.
Yeah.
A little bit of background on me, 46 years old. I've had my real estate license for almost 14 years. 9 of those years were part-time though, because I was a full-time elementary school teacher for almost 17 years.
What grade?
I started, my first year was grade 5.
Okay.
And then every year after that was grade 8.
Okay.
So really, really fun. And people always say, well, how did you get into real estate?
Yeah.
I actually got into real estate not to make money, but to save money.
Yeah.
I didn't want to pay anyone commission.
Yeah.
So it was 15. I calculated it's going to be about 15,000. Cheap. I know.
Cheap.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cheap. I am cheap. It was going to be about $15,000, the commission, right, to pay out. And I was like, well, years ago, I was like, it's going to cost me $2,700 to do my license.
Yeah.
And I don't think real estate's that difficult. So did my courses, got my license within 8 months, and I sold my first house. And I was like, amazing. And I remember putting the sold over asking sign on this. And this was a long time ago. And my neighbor came in and was like, are you in real estate? I was like, nope. He's like, but that's your name. And I was like, I only got my license, yada, 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 just to save some money. And that literally was like the first 5 years. I didn't tell a single person I was in real estate.
Yeah.
I didn't I wasn't in real estate until people started asking me more real estate related questions. And I was like, you know what, maybe I'll lean into this a little bit more. One thing led to another, and my production went up like quite quickly once I was a little bit more intentional with wanting to do real estate. And then it came a point where I left teaching. And, most people say, oh, it's because of the money, right? Like you left because the money was so good. No, it's because I have 2 young kids. And I remember getting Jordan ready for school. And she was going on a field trip to the science center. And I was getting her ready. And I was like, sweetie, you're going to have the best time ever. And she's like, yeah, Daddy, we're going to have an amazing time. And I was like, Daddy can't go. I'm like, Daddy's teaching. And she fell to the ground crying. And she's like, and if you're a parent, you'll empathize with this. She looks at me and she's like, you never come to the field trips like the other parents. And that crushed me. And I turned to my wife at the time and I was like, I'm out. I'm done. Like I cannot do this. I live for these kids. I live for these moments. And 3 months later, I fully quit the board. And I had the director, the associate directors, the superintendents being like, don't quit. Just take a year off and you'll come back. And I was like, my kids are little. I don't need a year off. I need like a runway of 10 years to be present for them. So for like dropping them off at school, picking them up, dropping them off bubble tea, like at recess time, going on all the field trips, it has been the best decision ever. But then when I went full time into real estate, I was like, I need a coach. I'm a huge proponent of I don't know what I don't know, right? And I'm not going to kind of pretend to know something I don't. And so I hired a coach with Tom Ferry, and I paid the entire year up front. Wasn't this kind of like ticky-tacky, like, once a month or a quarterly payment? I'm like, here's the year up front. First year of coaching, my income went up. Not a lot, but it went up.
So let's backtrack.
Yeah.
With teaching, okay, because one of the biggest things, like we have a lot of teacher clients, and I'm really envious of that pension, okay, because I'm like, man, like it's such a secure job. Like, real estate is great when you're making money.
Yeah.
Okay, but most realtors are like this. I mean, teaching is just like this, and then you have your pension when you're done.
Yeah.
So, like, what was that like?
I did the math. Yeah, I did the math. So if I lived to like 88, 89, and I retired at 56, I'd have about $1.7 million in pension money. Okay. If I look at my real estate income, I can make that in a year. Yeah. So for me, it wasn't the money, it was the time. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. So most teachers fight to get to the pension. And one of my former colleagues, I still remember, like Al, amazing. Him and his partner wanted to, open up a garden store and travel and everything. And he was like, I just got to get to the pension. A year later, died because of thyroid cancer. So he got all the way up to his max pension amount. And a year later, he died, thyroid cancer. And I'm about time. For me, it's not about money. It's about what I'm doing with my time. Yeah. And so what's the most important thing right now for me? And my clients all know this. It's my kids. My team knows this as well. My kids are priority. I will walk away from business 10 times out of 10 if it impedes with my scheduling with the kids. Always.
It's all about the money for Sedge, though, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the truth.
So, okay, so the flexibility that real estate gives you is to be able to pick the kids up, drop them off.
Yeah. You know this too. You're a dad. You got like a soccer team of kids, right? Like it's like think about it. Like, my kids aren't going to remember that I got them like a freaking like PlayStation 10 or whatever it is, right? Yeah. But they're going to remember to be like, hey, my dad was at every basketball practice. My dad was at every volleyball practice. He was up early taking me like 3 hours across the province to a tournament, having great chats, grabbing like McDonald's on the way. Like, that's what I remember. Yeah. I don't remember, I'll be honest. Do you remember a single thing your parents bought you? Like when you were like under the age of 15?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Baseball bats and gloves.
Nintendo.
Sure.
GT snow racers.
Those are awesome.
All right.
Love that. Remember that forever.
Nintendo. Like
Sega, Atari.
Yeah.
Like 80 years. Yeah. It's moments, though. Like, for me, it's there's nothing better than that. Oh.
So, okay. So then let's get into coaching. Yeah. So teaching's gone. I like the idea, like you've cut it off. Okay. Like you,
what is this?
Figuratively, you cut it off, and then so you can't go back. Yeah. Okay, you shut the door, and now you're all into real estate.
And that's the whole Tony Robbins. He coins that phrase, like you got to burn your boat and take the island.
Yes.
Like you can't be part-time here and part-time here and expect to excel in both areas. Yeah. It just doesn't work.
And you've done it. You've tried it.
Like think about Deion Sanders. Yeah. He's a perfect example. Incredible football player. An okay baseball player. But remember when he was doing both at the same time? Yeah. It wasn't good. Yeah. And he was like, I'm out of here. I got to focus in on this. Correct. It's the same thing, right? Yeah. So none of this like, and I hate saying this because a lot of agents will like harp on part-time agents. Yeah. They don't know this, that, whatever. Don't. Because it's really at the end of the day, it's just like someone's willingness. It's their habits to want to succeed. Because there's a lot of part-time agents out there that crush full-time agents. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. And so I burned the boat and I went on all in.
Okay. Yeah. So then, give us an example of your numbers right now. Like how many team members, how many staff? Yep. How many sales reps? Yep. And what's your production level?
So I'm just gonna qualify this because for all intents and purposes, we have a small team, but we have a very young team. Okay. Everyone on the team is less than 3 years in the business. Okay. So I got to like kind of preface that. So currently, as we stand right now, we're 6 full-time agents. We have 2 support staff. We just did our Q1 target. Right now, we're just under 23 million in volume. Okay. Which is actually it's our strongest start in real estate. Yeah. Now I got to qualify that in that like that's not all my production. Yeah. And that's the beauty of building the team. That's why he's here. because
And he's dressed up.
yeah. I didn't get the memo.
Yeah.
But a true just student of learning in this business.
Yeah.
Like he's killing it. He's crushing it. Yeah, and we're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah. No
So
complaints.
how many staff?
2 support staff. So we have a VA that handles all our transactions and listings, and some mild marketing, and then we have an operations manager.
And then how many agents?
6.
6.
Yeah, 6 full time.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
One
And-
just joined.
Okay,
So,
great.
Yeah.
So now for coaching. So for you guys that don't know, like Steve and I years ago, we actually shared a coach. So if like Rob Hannaford is out there, okay, and we love you, man.
Sounds
okay?
promiscuous. Like
What?
we shared a coach.
Yeah. So it's weird, right? So Rob, we
Hold
love
on,
you.
let's tell the real story. Tyler fell in love with me, couldn't get
Yeah.
enough of me, kept DMing me until one day I was like, fine,
That's right.
let's go for a
I'll be
coffee.
your friend.
That's
I'll
right.
be your friend.
So we had a good experience with Rob, who was a joint coach, and we met at one of the Tom Ferry summits. And then 2 weeks later, he called me, and he had a referral in Fergus. 2 weeks later, so it was a pretty cool connection. And then from there, the rest is history. But so let's go to coaching. So. Real estate's hard enough. Why coach? Like, why do you want to be a coach, a Tom Ferry coach, and run your own team as well?
I actually didn't want to be a coach. So after my first year, big shout out to Rob. He was like, you should be a coach. He's like, you have really good coaching, teaching experience, and you're doing well in real estate. And I was like, yeah, but I need to do better in real estate for me to feel confident to be a coach. It's that kind of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Right? And then year 2, I was like, he's like, he was still pushing it. And then I got a call from Tom's office. They're like, come meet Tom.
It's amazing that Rob would have the foresight to do that, because by doing that, right,
He loses a client.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is why Rob's amazing. And then like just a true like gentleman, just an awesome guy.
Ex-cop.
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. And so I flew out, and within like the matter of like 10, 12 minutes, I was like, okay, I'll be a coach.
Yeah.
And people say, well, why? I'm like, because it's impact. What I go for now in everything that I try to do, it's impact. It's not income. It's that impact. And as cliched as that is, we can all make income.
Yeah.
Like if I said, go get a listing appointment today, go get some sellers, buyers, you know what to do.
Yeah.
But being able to impact people daily, that's why I love teaching. And so I've been a coach now almost 5 years, and it's been amazing. But you asked, why do people need a coach?
Yeah.
People need guardrails in this business. So the question is, when someone gets their real estate license, the first thing that I ask is like, have you ever owned a business before? Because this is a business.
Yeah.
If you don't understand the business, which unfortunately, a lot of that is understanding your numbers, right? You're going to have a really, really tough time in this business, because great, you made $1 million, but you spent 1.1 doing it. Now you're in a deficit. So even being able to structure your bank accounts properly is important. So I learned that pretty quick, and I just like ensuring that my clients kind of stick to those guardrails.
What do you have to say about that, Sedge?
Yeah, there's a little bit of truth to that. I have my side of the story. I'm just kidding.
Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, sorry. What do you say to the agents out there? And I've talked to a lot of them that say coaching is just BS.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's a waste of money.
Yeah.
So what do you say to those guys?
Yeah, you're right. You can be right.
Right?
Like really at the...
Because some people can be successful without a coach, right?
Sure. 100%. And there's people out there that are killing it without a coach.
Yeah.
But then take a look at the DNA of those people.
Yeah.
Do they know how to run the business? They do. They know their numbers. They know their daily activities. Most importantly, they know their habits that produce income.
Yeah.
Right? And they're wickedly religious on their scheduling.
Yes.
Right? But unfortunately, that's a very, very small percentage of our real estate population. So some people that say coaching is a waste of time and money, yeah, like I hate saying it. If you have the wrong coach, absolutely it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you have the right coach, they're going to push you to levels you could never have even experienced.
Right? You owe
Is
him.
it my turn?
You owe him. No, you
I
just sit
kidding.
there.
I just look
So let me ask you this: have you ever had a coaching client that you're like, I'm not the coach for you,
Yes.
and you've gotten rid of them?
Yep. Yeah.
Right?
Because that's what a good coach does.
Okay.
So everyone in my coaching roster now, they're not with me forever. I won't allow that, because you're going to get to a point where like you've literally squeezed every like ounce out of that lemon or orange.
Yeah.
You got to go somewhere else.
Okay.
You have to, right? From just a coaching perspective. From a team perspective, you know, people are like, oh, you know, you're giving them everything and you're pouring into them. You know, what happens if they leave? Well, if they leave, they leave.
Yeah.
I can't stop that. That's not going to change the way I lead a team.
Yeah.
My hope is I'm going to give you everything to be a really good agent, but hopefully I'm going to create the environment and culture that keeps you here.
Yeah. And I think too that, you know, the like growth can go in so many different ways, right?
Yeah.
So like if like I always like the idea of having somebody come in, you're teaching them how to grow the business, how to sell in this business. And, you know, if their growth, you know, makes them want to grow their own team or, you know, go wherever, as much as you might not like it, I think that you've done them a heck of a service by doing that.
Like I'm pushing Sedge and even Jenny in a year or two to grow their own teams.
Yeah.
Like that's important.
Yeah.
But I want it to be within kind of our framework.
So a team within
a team. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Because at the end of the day, does Sedge want to deal with like payroll? Does he want to deal with scheduling? Does he want to deal with like the logistical nightmare at times on the back end?
Yeah.
No. So I'll remove that for him.
Yeah.
Right. And then now he can start to grow, because this is in any business, right? If you don't create that pathway of growth for agents on your team, they're going to leave you.
So your preference right now would be you're coaching with Tom Ferry,
Yep.
you're coaching with your team. Are you still in production?
I am a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
So let me qualify a little bit. Last year, maybe 30%, maybe.
Yeah.
Probably not even 30%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with coaching clients that are whiny or don't show up?
Fire them.
Do you?
Yep.
100%.
100%. So my hard rule.
How many strikes?
You'll get 2.
Okay.
My hard rule is this, though. Once you come into my coaching roster, so it's different because I have to. They're different. Coaching my team versus coaching for Tom Ferry. I have one rule in Tom Ferry, though, is I'm going to give you homework. I'm going to give you 1 or 2 things that you got to get done. If you don't get that done, I will not take another call until you finish those tasks.
And they still pay.
And they still pay. So, hey, Tyler, you got to do A and B for next week's call, right?
Yeah.
And all this first thing, hey, Tyler, how's it going? Hit me with a win. Where are we at with last week's homework? You're like, oh, coach, I didn't. I said, okay, I'll see you next week, Tyler, and I'll cancel the call. And you still get charged for it.
Yeah.
And people, the first time.
Excuse me, sorry.
And the first time it happens, because it happens, people were like, whoa, you're like no other coach I've had. And I said, yeah, because this is what you pay me for. Not me, but Tom Ferry. You pay for high accountability. Because if you don't have accountability as a real estate agent, your failure rate's 99.99% of the time.
Yeah.
So there's that huge, it's that quick shift.
Yeah.
And now people are like, oh, I got to like show up on these calls. And every one of my coaching clients says it. There's like, hey, coach, there's like that 15 seconds of anxiety that kicks in right before that Zoom camera turns on. I said, good. I never want you to lose that, because that's important, right?
Yeah.
And so there's that. With the team, I would say there's a lot more empathy, because I see them all the time.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm more exposed to personal things that are happening, professional things that are happening. But I tell them this, I say, we operate on high expectations, not on low standards. Remember that. So if you're like, hey, I can only do prospecting twice a week, but I'm like, no, we do it 6 times a week. We don't drop our standards.
So do you think that's why you have newer agents on your team? Like a seasoned agent, I mean, they've got so many habits, some good, some bad. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned it yourself, right? Like figuring out what's going to make you money, okay? Having your daily schedule that's like non-negotiable, okay? So they're going to have certain activities that are their money-making activities, which they should be doing. So like, you know, like I said, someone who's been in the business for 10 years, like even for myself, like I started coaching late, okay? And I wouldn't necessarily say I'm a great coachable guy. I'm just like really nice, really cool, and really great at what I do, you know? But like, it's important, like for instance, like with Rob, okay?
Yeah.
My first meeting with Rob, we ended it. Like I was, attitude, he didn't like it. And like I was a button-up shirt and I didn't have any pants on, right? Like I was like in Zoom meeting.
What else is new?
Yeah, what else is new?
uncommon.
But that was what he did. And then I phoned him back and I said, my apologies. It was a bad day. I got off to a bad start. No problem. I'll see you next week. And we went on for 2 years after that.
Wow.
That's a great coach.
Yeah.
Nice.
Right? That's a great coach.
But
you asked,
yeah,
like-
so keep going. Yeah, sorry.
Like, is my team conducive of someone who has a lot of years of experience in real estate? I take a step back and I look at your quality, the quality of your habits.
Yeah.
Because you could be 20 years in real estate and struggle 20 years in real estate.
Yeah.
Right? And that's typically due to the fact that you just have really poor habits.
Yeah.
Right? I take a look at an agent, and I've had agents with multiple years of experience, hundreds of thousands of dollars, like generating GCI every year, come and be like, there's too much structure here.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Like how do you break that?
I don't break it. This is the way it is. It's either you can do it or you can't.
But habits are so, like some people say, well, it takes a month or it takes 60 days, it takes 90 days. Like you read the 5 a.m. Club and it's, 66 days to form a habit.
So it's 21 days to build a habit, 90 days to embed the lifestyle.
Yeah.
So right from the beginning of our onboarding, there's 30 days of everyday prospecting. Every day you got to prospect, 30 days, and every new agent has to send me their numbers every single day. You miss a day, you're out.
The first 30 days.
Yep. You miss one day of sending those numbers into me, you're out, because my expectations are here.
And have you done that?
To people, yeah, absolutely.
So
Like we've started off with people like 4 or 6 agents starting the onboarding process, and one makes it.
Sedge, how many times have you lied to Steve about your prospecting? Oh yeah, I was doing it.
It's being recorded.
So, like, I guess, so for people out there that don't understand what prospecting is.
Yeah, it's not like, like the old days where like the guy was like with the chisel going into the mine.
Yeah.
But, like really it's like trying to find business.
Okay.
Right? So where are you going to go? Who are you going to call? Who are you going to talk to?
Yeah.
It's those habits because, you eat what you hunt in this business. Yeah. And if you're not hunting, then you're going to go hungry. Yeah. And what do most agents do when they go hungry? They blame everyone else for the position that they're in.
That's right.
I nipped that in the bud, like right in the beginning. You got to learn to hunt at a high level.
And they talk about the clients or this and that. Like, it's interesting because with us prospecting, we look at differently. We look at lead generation and then we look at prospecting, where the lead generation is bringing in the contacts and the prospecting is, converting them into the lead, right?
I love that.
So,
yeah.
So, Sedge, if you're looking for another opportunity,
it's a nice drive out to Rockwood.
Yeah, it's a great drive out to Rockwood, right?
But you know what?
It's
I think a great question would be to ask Sedge that. So, what did you learn?
Can I jump in here? I'm excited to
Of course. That's why you're here, man.
One of the things actually, you mentioned you eat what you kill, and I agree. I prefer you reap what you sow. And for example, one of the things when I started door knocking, I remember Steve mentioning this could take a while. It could take 12 months. It could take 18 months. It actually took 17 months for me to get my first listing. And this is door knocking consistently every other week. So twice a month, just delivering value, following up, checking up.
And that's hard. Mm-hmm. Like I have
that's like the literal definition of insanity.
Like, that's it.
Do the same thing day in and day out, expecting different results.
That's so hard.
Yeah, but it was
It's amazing you know that too. 17 months.
Yeah, well, I was keeping track.
Coach.
I was keeping track because if it took 19 months, I'd be like, "You're a liar."
If it was 18, I'd be pissed.
Yeah, but you know what? It taught me that for those 17 months, it was discouraging. It was tough. It was an absolute grind. But I knew that if I kept up with it, I would finally reap what I sowed. And I was, just like a farmer, planting and cultivating these relationships. People knew. They came to know that I was going to come and I was going to deliver something of value. And that is what has helped me. And so I'm proud to share that I'm now just completing my 6th transaction in that area.
I love the.
It's amazing. Because and let me just I'm just gonna lean in quickly because I remember when Sedge was like, "Hey, bro, I'm thinking about door knocking my area," and I said, "Okay, I'm just gonna kind of lay out the playing field for you a little bit here right now. Number one is you are going up against Toronto's strongest and most dominant geo farmer in WO8.
Yeah.
She's had that on lock well over a decade. And you're also going up against the second strongest geo farmer in that area. And so I said, go for it. And I said, go for it because Sedge has a unique skill set that I hate saying. I haven't seen a lot of agents. It's that genuine empathy.
Yeah.
Not like fake empathy, but like I'm going to tell you exactly what I think is going to serve you the best.
Yeah.
So that might be like, you know what? Don't sell for another 17 years.
Yeah.
It's just the start. Like he is so good in front of people.
So yeah, and like I was saying, like that analogy that the plant the seed, it's like it does sound like corny, but it is so true because
takes patience.
like if you don't plant the seed, you're not going to talk to people all the way up, and it is like I enjoy door knocking and I do quite well
me too.
at door
I love
knocking.
it. I love
Okay,
it.
and I think. Was banging over there, but I think that like a lot of people, they do get frustrated, and it's kind of like sometimes you could knock on 100 doors and there's nobody, and then other times you could knock on 2 doors, get a number, go right in, and everything's great.
Yeah.
All right.
I got to share that door knocking story.
The first, yeah.
Do you want to share it?
Well,
No, go for it, because you.
Yeah, the first time we went out as a team, and it's so much easier and more fun when you're
Yes.
going out with other people. You're in it together, and I was actually anticipating the first F off.
Yeah.
And it was Steve and another team member actually standing out there when it happened. And it was a fuck off and slamming of the door. And I remember walking out, and these guys were smiling and laughing. And
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? That didn't
Yes.
feel good.
Yes.
But that's what
Yeah,
I
I was. Sedge.
needed.
Yeah.
And I survived. And I'm
Yes.
still out there. And, you know, it's a perspective and a mindset shift.
And I think too, when you do that, like that's the worst thing that's going to happen. But like it doesn't happen. Like people are under the impression, or agents are under the impression that when you door knock, that happens all the time. It
Yeah,
doesn't.
yeah,
Like people are like, okay, no, thanks. You hand them a piece of paper. I don't want it. See you later.
Yeah.
And then they shut the door. That's typically the worst. It's not every day that people tell you, can you? But they're knocking around out there. But it isn't every day. So, Sedge, let me ask you this though: when you first start, right? Like, the experience counts for something too. Being able to talk about the market, being able to know what's going on in your area.
Yeah.
So when we're doing that, the preparation is one of the most important things, because I always tell people they're going to ask you about that sale down the street.
Yes.
They're going to ask you about this listing that's been hanging on the market for a while.
Yeah.
So if you're going to door knock a certain area,
gotta
and I
know
know
your
we're
shit.
getting into door knocking too deep, but you need to at least have some background on that area. And I think a lot of people, when they first start door knocking, they don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know?
So that was one of the first things, you know, what are we going to do? What do we say when we knock on the door? It has to be something of value, not just, you know, I'm an agent with Real Broker and, you know, have you had any thoughts of selling? That's the quickest way for them to just get that icky feeling, sleazy agent. And so we did have to know our numbers. And I'm studying on a daily basis what is going on in my pocket, in the micro market.
Yeah.
And I'm sharing with them, not sure you're aware, but this just sold for this much, and this is what it means for you. And if you're curious to know more, my information is there.
Yes.
And then that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't need to be like, you're not going to sell with every knock, right? And I mean, I do find, like, you know, it's not like I can sell ice to Eskimos.
Yeah.
You don't need to sell someone that they don't need it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, the sincerity part that you talk about, because
huge.
Steve, you have that as well. Okay, and not to pump your tires, because I don't want you to get a big ego
Thanks.
here.
You're getting there too, Tyler.
Yeah.
But I will say that about you is, when I first met you too, when you're like, oh yeah. And you're like really like in there, I'm like, what's this guy's deal? Like,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then the more you get to know somebody, the more you really realize, like, it's interesting. Like, he does really care. Like, he's
Why is it interesting?
because like he's cheap as hell, but he does really care, and it is like. It was odd, because I was like kind of taken back. Like, so, like,
Why were you taken back though? Just because of the industry?
Yeah, because
Okay,
because for
sure.
us,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
for
yeah.
me, I mean, we sell a lot of country stuff,
Yeah.
and when I got into the industry, like an agent could just bite your head off just as quick, and nobody was really used to giving. Like that's a big thing that's happening now, is agents are willing to share, and I've noticed
Yeah.
that over the last 10 years that things are changing that way. It's not like I've been selling for 30 years and you're not going to tell me how to do my job,
yeah.
right? It's like an open book, and so for Steven, you've let me come into your office and opened up your books and your checklist. I do the same here as a result. It's
Yeah.
like that Tim
Oh, I
Hortons
love that.
commercial where you see someone walking by and then they get the Tim Hortons. That's
yeah.
it. But before you started Reel, like Reel's got the logo, work hard, be kind.
Yep.
Okay. And before I had even heard of Reel,
Yeah.
be great, be kind was a tagline that he had.
Yeah.
And I think Reel stole it from him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Have you received
No,
anything?
nothing.
All right,
I
no
gotta check.
royalty,
I'll
no
talk to
nothing.
him here.
But when you talk about culture, okay, there's no doubt in my mind that the culture is there.
Yeah.
Okay. So next, so I talked about the seasoned agents. How would you get a seasoned agent that's stuck in their ways to buy into a system? Right?
I'm never going to convince someone to buy into the system. It's either you can do it, this is what you want, or you don't want it.
Yeah.
So I think, for a lot of team leads, what we try to do is we try to do too much.
Yeah.
We try to get as many agents as we possibly can, as many as the right agents as we possibly can, but we also fear that we don't have enough agents.
Yeah.
So the agents that we do have, it's like literally taking like a square peg and pounding it into a round hole.
Yeah.
With agents. I'm not doing that. I did that early on building the team, right? Learned a ton of lessons, made a ton of mistakes. This is how I operate. And I know that things will just go much smoother if people operate this way. And it's like, that kind of sounds like a bit of a dictatorship. No, this is the right way.
Yeah.
And I'd rather you just learn to adopt it this way, because what's going to happen is we're just going to avoid a lot of problems.
That's right.
And headaches. Right?
Yeah.
So this is the standard. We do this, right? And if you can't, then this is not the team for you.
Yeah.
That's been the biggest lesson for me, is talking to a lot of agents and realizing just how many won't thrive in this environment. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
And they still do, and that's the thing. The agents will still do well. But I do remember when I didn't have any coaching, I was still doing well.
Yeah.
Right? It's just I didn't understand the business the same. Okay? So like you talk about where your lead source was, like I could have been in the business 8 years and I never really thought about it, because I would, you'd go to open houses, you'd talk to people, you'd get clients.
Yeah.
You'd get like stag and does and weddings and all sorts of stuff. But it wasn't something that I really focused on.
Yeah.
Right. And I think once you do that, you can double your business within the first 12 months.
You can scale your business, which is crazy, because that's
Yeah.
what we always want, right?
Yeah.
Double, triple, but I'm talking scaling. And what is scaling? Scaling is like, I know what I can do at peak production.
Yeah.
Scaling is like having the team well outperform me at peak production. Like that's the beauty of it.
So I guess the answer to that is like you can't do that. They have to want to do it, and they have to have the personality.
Yeah, and in having that direction for the team, I will disqualify 99% of agents.
Okay.
Like-
So you have agents come to you.
Yeah.
And they say, "Hey, Steven, help me."
Yeah, and I say, hey, you know what? Or and it's not help. It's like, hey, are you hiring? I want to join your team. And I'm gonna kind of let the cat out of the cat out of the bag. I'm like, I just say, unfortunately, we're not hiring right now,
Yeah.
and that's my polite way of saying it's not gonna work.
So if you guys,
I hate saying
he
it
just
because
said that's you. Right?
I hate saying it, but it's just like that's the reality. And the thing is like deep down inside too, they know that as well. You
Yeah.
know, coming here,
Yeah.
it's not gonna bode well for you.
But in different, like one thing I have learned is like I mean, personalities aside, I find even in my head sometimes when I was talking to a seasoned agent who's part of a team, okay, and he had a team with his mother before, okay, so when he had a singular two person team, they'd split everything and he'd 50% of the income, half the income. So when he joined the team, and he's been 18 years in the industry. It was no different than working with his mother who had retired. Was he joined the team, and the benefit of the team was he didn't even have to cover half the expenses. He split the commissions, but he didn't cover half the expenses. And I thought, it's a different outlook, because I would never look at that. I would think someone 18 years in this business, why would they ever join a team? If they've been in 8 years, they obviously know they're producing something, right? Yeah. So it was just an interesting conversation, because he had fully bought in to the system, and he was thriving in the system.
It's buying into the system, but it's also like understanding the reality of our business.
Yeah.
The question is like, really sit back and audit yourself. Be like, are you a phenomenal marketer?
Yeah.
Like, do you understand where your clients are right now? And how are you getting in front of them? If you're not a phenomenal marketer and you don't know how to do landing pages or create amazing content and have Kyle here in the background like pumping it awesome content, don't do it.
Yeah.
Because that 12 hours you're going to spend on a 40-second video, go get business.
Go knock on a door.
So, and there's that. And then understanding the financial aspect of the business.
Yeah.
Like, I have a bookkeeper and accountant, and I pay them well for that.
Yeah.
Because that's what they're really good at. All an agent needs to do is generate business by having conversations and booking appointments.
That's right.
So that guy, 18 years in the business, is wickedly smart. He's like, you know what? I'm not doing that. Yeah. I'm going to focus in on my lane.
It was so cool.
Yeah,
it was
right.
so cool.
Yeah.
So Sedge, was there a time throughout the process, and be honest now,
Sure,
that you had some doubts, that you were like, listen, Steve, like I like, I've got this commission, I'm giving him split, whatever it is. But not just that, the whole, like, not just the doubts of real estate, but the doubts of, Steve, what do you mean I've got a prospect for 30 days every day straight? What do you mean I got to knock on 100 doors a week?
Was there a time? To this day, Tyler, there are times, and that's okay. We know we're going to butt heads. We're not always going to see eye to eye. And some of it is going to be just me, as he said, having to audit myself and to be self-aware and to be honest.
So he's like, you need to audit yourself right now, Sedge. You need to be honest with yourself.
No, but we have this thing. Part of the culture is care and candor. Okay. And so if I have something that's not sitting well with me, I'm not going to shy away from.
You need to communicate.
Yeah, and the great thing about our relationship and Steve is I can say, hey, I need to come to you with something. I'm not ready to talk about it now, but Monday after huddle, can we sit down? Can we talk about it? This is what I'm struggling with. These are the doubts that I'm having, right? And you mentioned it, the split, 50-50. We've had those conversations. They're not comfortable, but they need to happen, right? Yeah. Otherwise, if we don't, then I worry about what's going to happen later, and I don't want it to be a bigger problem later. So let's talk about it now.
Well, and then I mean, even the door knocking, 17 months.
Yeah.
Like,
never mind the door knocking.
You're either horrible at it or.
Yeah, you know what? So I'm also a former teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I taught for 16 and a half years as well at a high school.
You guys at the same school?
No.
Did you know each other before?
Elementary.
Yeah.
I knew him from church. I prospected this guy to join real estate at my church for years from church.
Pursued me.
Yeah.
Like I was a prom queen.
Yeah. Even better.
Yeah.
Right?
Still acts like a prom queen.
Yeah.
But I remember
prom
like,
king.
The thing is, like, there's that one thing, that one skill that I look for, and I do it all the time. I joke around with the team, but not really. Like, my daughter likes shopping at Aritzia. I don't know if you've ever been to Aritzia, but they train their staff phenomenally well. The only challenge is like, they're mostly like teenage girls.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, every time I go to Aritzia, I'm just blown away at how well trained their sales staff is. That I always talk to the manager, be like, that person was amazing.
Like, I think everybody can take good note. Like, this guy has no shame. Like, he's recruiting church members. Okay.
Talking to the pastor.
Yeah.
Hey,
he's like, listen, do you mind if I send out my flyers? We'll put a prayer on the back.
Exactly.
Okay, well, that's interesting. So but I don't think that's restrictive to just a team member. Like, even myself, like I have doubts, daily, right? On like, okay, what are we doing here? This is taking longer than I expected. But
that's going to do one of two things. Like, when people doubt where they're at, it does one of two things. Number one is it either gives them a good check on reality. And what I mean by that is, like, that's the humility component of it.
Yeah.
Hey, I may be not as good as I thought I was, and I need to grow, and I need to lean in on this. That's number one. That's what I look for. Number two is, I'm out. This is too, I'm out.
Yeah.
Because they don't know the habits that require for them to do well in this business.
Yeah.
He's got a crazy level of humility. I don't know if I can share this, but I remember in his first year, can I share this?
You're going to share it anyway.
I know. I don't know why I said that. Yeah. But in his first year, like teachers make 100,000.
He cares. He really cares.
Yeah. Teachers make over 100,000.
Yeah.
You get a lot of time off. I think they work 89 days in the year, whatever. He came to me in his first year and I said, bro, like understanding your first year, you're not making that. Mm-hmm. But I said, I promise you in your second year, if you do everything I tell you, you're going to make more than that. In his first year, what did you make?
47,000.
From making 100.
Half, yeah.
From
less
making
than half.
He's got kids. He's got a mortgage. Got a wife. He's in his 40s. Like
that is. Talk about doubt.
Yeah.
I had
that's
doubts.
why doubt. But then in his second year, it clicked. And last year he grossed over 500,000.
Yeah.
That's tremendous.
Before splits, which we could talk about later.
Which
that's why I said gross.
Right.
But think about that. Think about the trajectory of that. Like from your first year to now your third year, you've 10x'd your income.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen by accident.
Yeah.
And look, I could toot my own horn. He's got the DNA of it, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you want to get out of there, right? Like, is that what you're saying? Okay, so let's keep going. So I guess that goes to my next question is, who is the ideal person to coach? And don't just say someone that's coachable. Okay, like what do you look for? Or like, you could have like, I look at myself, okay, and I've like, it's funny because I've Steve and I have had a conversation where I'm like, why don't you coach me? And he's like, no, I'm not going to coach you. No, you know what he said? He's like, we're not hiring right now. But do you know
why though I said that?
Why?
Because I value our friendship over the business. And do you remember I said, whatever you need, I'll give to you. And not only that, I will spend time with you.
Yeah.
But the week to week coaching, it would ruin our friendship.
And I mean, and he's right. And I mean, he has like anytime I've had any questions, like I've come to the office. We've done chicken wing dates. Like
you weren't invited.
You weren't invited.
Oh, when was this?
Your GCI wasn't high enough. I'm gonna. You got to get up to $1 million for chicken wings. So continue. So like do you not think that everybody's coachable? It's just maybe the different like the wrong coach or
yeah. I think everyone's coachable. Like that's why I think everyone needs also a therapist and a coach.
Yeah.
Everyone right across the board needs that.
Yeah.
Right. It's ultimately number one is I want to know what your goals are. So whenever I receive a new coaching client or someone wants to coach with me, number one is I want to know what your goals are. And then I want to know your habits. And then I want to know your ego. It's goals, habits, ego.
Yeah. Right?
If you have really good goals, right? They're like realistic. If you're like, hey, because the first question I ask is like, hey, what do you want to make in your first year of real estate? And someone says $1 million. I said, amazing. Walk me through a daily habit of yours right now. Pick a day of the week. I'm going to say Thursday. Walk me through Thursday. What do you do? And then this is what I pay attention to. Well, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
Steve, what do you do Friday? I get up at 4:45. I put cold water on my face, 10 quick push-ups. I work out for 45 minutes to an hour. I pray, I journal, emails, get the kids up, breakfast. Yeah. There's no You're like, whoa, highly regimented, right? Now you have the habits. And then it's the ego.
Yeah.
Hey, so share with me, right? A moment in time where you've done exceptionally well at something. A moment in time where maybe in your eyes you failed at something. And what did you do about that? So that series of questioning, I can identify very quickly if someone's coachable, if I'll coach them.
If you coach
So Tyler.
Yeah, so like there's no way.
Which is why
there's no way. Not hiring right now. Okay, so then I guess too. So they've got like, where do you start, right? Like, I mean, obviously, like for instance, I've used a few different coaching platforms. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I was with Tom Ferry. And I was with more of like a boutique coach, and which was more personable, because when you hire Tom Ferry, you don't get Tom Ferry, right? You get Stephen Kim.
Wah, wah.
Yeah. So I guess where do you start? Like for me, the beauty of the Tom Ferry coaching system wasn't the coach per se. It was the network. Tom would say ecosystem.
Yeah.
Okay, but like if you look at it, we had one night out at a coaching summit in, where was it? San
Anaheim.
Diego, Anaheim, and we haven't stopped talking since.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Shout out to the Wolfpack.
yes, shout out to the Wolfpack if you guys are out there, right from New York to Seattle, Texas. But like, to me, that's really important. Where I know, and I don't talk to them all the time, but I could call any one of them and say, like Katie, I could call Katie and say, hey, how are you doing things over here? Or what are you doing here?
Yeah.
You've had Brad McCallum in some of your seminars, and that's another thing too. Is Stephen does seminars, and they're phenomenal. He's got a great cast on there. But I talked to him not too long ago. I messaged him on Instagram. Hey, can you help me with this, or what are you doing here? And he's helping us out. So like, that's my value that I see through that. Whereas a lot of people that aren't coaching right now, that's something that you don't see before you start the coaching. Because I never had any clue.
Yeah.
Right? I thought, like, who are these douchebags? And then I get meet Stephen.
Not too bad of a douchebag.
Yeah, he's all right.
But it's like, ultimately, at the end of the day, it's running a predictable business. And if you don't know your numbers and you don't know your daily habits, like literally you're waking up the first year of next year being like, I wonder where my next 10 deals are coming from.
Okay.
You have a predictable business when you can actually identify 10 deals coming.
So if somebody's watching this, okay, and
somebody,
if
one or two of you
person out there that watches this, okay, and they're thinking about joining coaching, but what's one advice? Like, would you tell them to write down what their daily habits are, and then like creating a daily schedule? Would that be something from Monday to Friday? This is what I'm doing every single day.
You got to know this ratio in real estate: contacts, conversations, appointments to closings. How many people do I contact?
Say it again.
Okay. How many people do I need to contact to have X number of conversations? X number of conversations leads to how many appointments? And this is the big one. How many appointments do you need to go on to get one closing?
Yes.
So if you don't know that ratio, you need a coach. Because I'm going to say, well, then track your daily numbers. So contacts, conversations, appointments, and closings. And then what you'll do is you'll do it well for the first 7 days.
Yes.
And then what happens? You stop.
Drop off. Yeah.
And that's where coach leans in and says, hey, Ty, do you have your numbers? Did you send them in to me? Are you done your homework? No? I'll see you next week. And now I'm literally like just brute forcing you to be like, okay, I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. Because if you don't have someone in your corner doing that for you, your chances of failure are astronomically high in real estate. Mm-hmm. We all know that.
Yeah.
So that's the benefit of
it. So then what's a ratio then for somebody from appointments to closing? What's a shitty ratio?
Well, the average
what's
is
a really good one.
The average.
I'll share my ratio. So we had 100-day
share a shitty
challenge. One. Sure. Yeah, this was my first year, mind you. Okay. But we had a challenge: 100 appointments in 100 days. So for 100 days, we had our whiteboards, we had our Bristol boards, and we're tracking how many appointments are we going to get in these 100 days. The goal is obviously to get 100, but so for example, I had 36 in those 100 days appointments. That led to 3 closings. So 12-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
Has it gotten better? It has.
Way better.
But it's important to know your numbers, not just the stats, not just the market stats, but you need to know how many conversations you're having. And if you're not having enough, you need to think about where to go and get them.
So now those appointments, for people that are watching, are they appointments with qualified buyers, or are they just like, let's go have a coffee?
It may start off just as, let's go have a coffee, but almost every coffee or lunch turns into, how's the market?
You can always talk real estate.
Well, they're always going to ask you. So the thing is, the fear is like, I just don't know what to say on an appointment. I'm like, they're going to ask you, how's the market? That's the number one question everyone asks.
Yeah.
But make it about them, right? We all know this. Like, to become really interesting, I first have to be interested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm asking you like really thoughtful questions. This is where agents can get caught, because it's like, well, I know if I ask these 6 questions and they're going to ask me about real estate, that's very disingenuous.
Yeah.
Like, I literally wanted, like, you just had a baby.
Yeah.
Leaning in and be like, hey, how's everything? How's Laura? How's like your weekend?
And that's going back to being genuine, right?
Yeah.
Like, you do have to care.
You have to be curious.
So even like, I do feel like, agents out there, to like, some agents wouldn't know how to talk about the market. And being prepared that way, no matter where you are or what you're doing, is important. 2 weeks ago, we had Sarah Logue here, and she is like a rock star area expert, like phenomenal. And she would, before she would go and pick the kids up from school, she would look at the hot sheet. And she would know like what's sold, what's listed, what's expired in that neighborhood, because she knew that somebody was going to ask her.
Yeah.
Right? Like it was crazy.
It's April 11th. April 11th. And I'm a stickler for numbers.
Yeah.
Stickler for numbers. So Treb stats, this point last year, we had over 7,000 sales.
Yeah.
March 2025, we had just over 5,000. That's a 23.5% drop in overall sales activity year over year.
Yeah.
Like, don't get it twisted. I'm a pretty kind guy, but I'm wickedly on top of the numbers and the stats.
Yeah.
Because you got it. Because anybody could ask me. Kyle could be like, you know what? I'm thinking about investing in Toronto. I'm out in the Rockwood area. Talk to me about that. Well, hey, let me talk to you a little bit about the fact that like the average price of a condo now is just over $700,000.
Yeah.
It was upper sixes a few months ago. So we're starting to see price appreciation, right?
And the inventory too.
Huge.
Right?
You got to know your numbers.
Yes.
You got to know your numbers. And I'm a stickler for numbers. Like,
Good.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Is he looking for a condo?
Yeah, he is looking for a condo.
I have a few listings.
So daily schedule is important. What other advice would you give them?
Someone who
Lead source, finding like most agents, if you ask them what their primary lead source is, they don't know.
They don't know. And you got to and the thing is
Or
everyone
they'll say Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
But Instagram.
They
Wrap
wanna,
off lead. Give me 7 lead sources.
They
right now.
want to do the easiest thing.
Yeah.
The lowest hanging fruit. And for them, they think the lowest hanging fruit is online leads.
Yeah.
If I just pay for the leads,
Yeah.
and I always I scratch my head thinking, I'm like, this fundamentally doesn't make any sense to me. So what you're telling me is you feel more comfortable and confident paying for leads that you do not know and trying to convince them to use you versus people that are free, like your friends and your families and your neighbors and your coworkers, and sharing the value prop to them.
And they know you, right?
It always like I scratch my head. I'm like, no, maybe it's because I'm cheap, but like lean in with the people that already somewhat know, like, and trust you. But they say this, but Steve, I haven't spoken to them in 5 years, in 7 years.
I
don't want to come across the sales. I'm like, they don't think that.
Yeah.
You think that, which is why you don't call.
And the whole I don't want to sound salesy thing too is there is some degree that people expect you to. Like I get hired on stuff like that. Okay.
But you bust through that with just an apology. Hey Kyle, it's been 7 years. My bad. I totally dropped the ball. I'm gonna right that wrong.
Yes.
I'm gonna be in your area next week. Let's grab a cup of coffee. Let's grab a bite. Let's go to that burger joint. I owe you a burger.
Yeah. That's important.
Who says
That's
you're
really
being such
important.
a jerk? Like you're an ass. No way. I dropped the ball on this.
Yeah.
I gotta right this wrong. Who says no to that?
Yeah.
I remember that was my biggest challenge too. You know, early on, I didn't want to reach out to my SOI. And part of it was because I'm still learning.
Yeah.
And so who's going to trust me with the largest transaction of their lives?
But that's what you think, right?
Exactly. And there is a little bit of truth to that. But now that I am experienced, there's still a little bit about that. But, you know, it was perspective. It's not, I'm trying to sell you anything. You know, I'm here to be a resource for you.
Yeah.
And so I know that of the many choices that you have, I am the right choice because I am going to have your back.
But that's a mindset in and itself, right?
Huge.
Like you have to believe that, and I think that where people struggle is they don't believe it.
Yeah.
Right? They pick up the phone and they think, okay, all I'm doing with this person is trying to get business, or like because sometimes I'll phone past clients and I won't the topic of real estate doesn't come up.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Right? And that's fine. And it's like, you know, like the certain coaching platforms are always like at the end of the conversation, listen, do you know anybody that's selling? Or, you know, I don't believe that you need to do that. I believe that with social media and email marketing, they already know. It's just now they know that the trust, like 70% of people choose their agent just based on trust alone.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? So
I say this. You form the worst habits in moments of desperation, especially in real estate.
Yeah.
When you are desperate and you don't know where your next paycheck is coming from, and you're under the gun for a mortgage payment, a rental payment, a carpet, whatever, you actually will start to formulate the worst habits doing that. So why don't we get ahead of that? Get ahead of that with a coach or a team or whatever, to give you those guardrails to be like, okay, I know I need to stick to this. And just like Sedge said, month 17, he got his first listing.
Yeah.
If I was like, no, Sedge, you know, I'm so sorry, 3 months in, like it's been crappy. Yeah, you know what? Throw in the towel. That's not serving him, right?
Yeah.
Again, that's me then dropping our standard here. It's here. This is how we operate. And now he's taking checks to the bank.
Right. So
Half the checks.
all right.
We keep coming up with half.
You've got
What's
the
going
check.
on here?
You've got the checks.
Yeah,
You
right?
won't release them yet. So okay, good. So they're like accountability, daily schedule, knowing where your lead source come from. Okay,
Yeah.
Consistency.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then for people that don't know where their lead source come from. Okay. Give us an example. Give me 5. Give me 7. How many lead sources?
Oh, there's like in Tom Ferry, there's the core 4, which is
Okay.
your database, your sphere, geo farm, online leads, database sphere, online leads, geo farm,
Yeah.
and open houses. Sorry,
Yep.
I'm drawing a blank there.
Yep.
Then you can lean in further, right? Then you can do agent-to-agent referrals,
Yeah.
right? So people that have clients in your marketplace but aren't in your marketplace.
Door
Like,
knocking.
I didn't know about that until I got to Tom Ferry. I'm like, what do you mean an agent would send me business? Like that didn't clue in. I was like, oh, that's crazy. Now we get referrals from across North America
Yeah.
from agents that are like, hey, you're Toronto here, like this is amazing. You can do that. Doing events is
Yeah.
huge. You can generate tons of business from events. Create networks, BNI networks. Do those on your own, right? The door knocking is the geo farm. So I kind of put those together.
So then, I mean, if like there's
And
so
then
many,
Google optimization.
there's so many lead sources. Okay?
There's so many lead sources.
Does somebody, like, for instance, I know an agent, and I mean, we keep on going back to door knocking, but that's all he does for a lead source,
He must crush
and
it.
he's in Barrie.
Yeah.
Okay, and so like, you know, like if somebody's really good at open houses,
Yeah.
do more open houses.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Like they don't like. I think that's the like. It's everybody's drawn to social media right now.
I know.
Like social media,
Yeah.
and I think it's a growth along of different platforms. But like I said, like if somebody's out there and they have a great lead source and they do want to increase business, then yes, they may want to jump on a lead source. But you don't need to have, 5 that you're not doing great at any one of them. Right?
Yeah, and we try to be generalists, right? Like I want to dip my toe into everything, right?
Yeah.
No, focus in on one thing.
Yeah.
And like turn your phone off or like get rid of your pause your Instagram, because once you start seeing, well, Tyler did a great video and such is great.
I'm gonna do that.
And now you shift your focus, and I become a generalist again.
I do it all the time.
Well, unfortunately, most agents have that
Yeah.
kind of squirrel mentality,
Yeah.
right? No, like focusing on one at a time, get it really, really good. And this is coaching. A good coach will be like, great, you're really good at door knocking. For the next 6 months, that's all we focus in on. Yeah. But you're like, oh, but I want to do this and I want to do. Nope, on this call, we're doing this because you're really good. And then you're like, whoa, I'm generating hundreds of thousands. I'm like, great, Ty. Now let's think about doing one thing here.
And that's hard for agents because they look at it and say, well, it can't be that easy. Right?
Agents are impatient too, though.
Right. And I went to Tom Ferry because all the media, all the Instagram and everything like that. But I've grown more business from other things within that ecosystem. And I find I think that's important. Like I tend to be I'm a horrible coaching client. Okay, the worst. I tend to realize things after. I'm like, oh yeah. Steve said that we need this or daily gratitude or whatever it is. Yeah. I'm like, oh yeah, I should do this, and I'm like, wait a second, I've heard this somewhere before. So for me, I look at coaching too as like, I'll have a coach, and like Steve says, you switch your coach, okay? But sometimes I'll take a break and I'll take off. But I always believe that the coaching is really important. But I do find that like for me, I don't always see it right away. It takes me a while to kind of click in. So that's why I'm a horrible coaching client.
No, I think you're a great coaching client.
Yeah.
I'd be afraid if you were like, I didn't see it. There's no value.
Yeah.
Nothing's clicking for me. That's scary.
Yeah.
Right. So you are a good coaching client because now you're like, oh, you know what? Maybe I need to tweak this one thing. Yeah. So when they say do this, like do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Try it. Right.
Try it. Yeah.
Okay. And then lastly, if somebody's looking for a coach, right? You have, Buffini, you have Tom Ferry, you have Richard Robbins, Proctor, is he still around, right?
Yeah.
We have all these, our office uses Marianne Gillespie a lot, and she's based out of Ottawa, Red Apple Coaching, Eisenhower. You have all these platforms. How does somebody determine what kind of coaching platform they should use?
That's a tough question.
Because you've only had one, right?
Yeah. I've only had one.
Verl Workman, remember?
Yeah, with Coldwell, right?
Yeah.
So it's, I'm gonna say the person. I got to take a look at the person, and are they an expert in the field that they're coaching me in, and that's the need that I'm looking for. Because again, I'm not looking for a generalist coach, right? So my coach is Jason Pantana. I needed
Ever heard of him?
Yeah.
Jason Pantana's an absolute rock star.
Yeah, but I wanted to level up my marketing game, right? And so he's coming. He doesn't keep me accountable on door knocking and how many calls did I make and that. No, it's marketing. But it's shifted now because now it's team growth. So we've gone from marketing to now team growth because that's where I'm really focusing in on.
Yeah.
So don't settle is what I would say. Don't settle. Talk to as many coaches as you possibly can because this is a long-term investment. Don't look at it as like, oh, I'm just going to try it out for a year. Nope. This is someone that you are going to help. Or it's going to help you in the next 5 years of your business.
Yes.
So don't settle. And I tell this to everyone. When I have, Tom Ferry's office, he sends me clients. They're like, hey, they just want to talk to someone in the Toronto marketplace. No problem. And I tell them, I said, talk to a lot of coaches.
Yes.
Don't settle is what I'd say.
Okay. And with that, you look at Tom Ferry and Brian Buffini, and Brian Buffini tends to be, work by referral, still writing hand cards.
Love it.
Right. And it's great. And Tom Ferry does tend to be more up to date on what the newest tech is. But they all have very similar stuff.
Huge.
Right?
Huge. Like fundamentally the business, we all know fundamentally what we need to do to generate business.
Yeah.
The thing, though, is what turns an average agent into a stronger agent is understanding what's coming down the pipeline. Yeah. That's why I love Tom Ferry. I find his organization is just ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
So don't lose sight of the fundamentals, but also understand that, hey, this is what's coming down the pipeline.
Yeah.
Right. So that's been paramount.
So then, in closing, with your team, where do you see your team going? Do you see, and says you can answer this after, but do you see having, a selective group of like rock star agents doing 50 to 100 deals a year, or do you see like 25, 50, 100?
I don't know.
Where would you like to be?
Yeah, I don't know about agent count.
Yeah.
Because what I've realized is we could bang out 100 deals.
Yeah.
We could.
Yeah.
We're just very different though.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's fair for me to expect that for someone who wants to do 25 deals a year.
Okay.
So I have a volume target and I have a GCI target, right? And I'd like to hit those targets in the next 3, 5, and 10 years.
Yeah.
Right.
I like that. I'm aligned with that. I don't know if we've actually spoken about that, but we've gone back and forth, number of agents. Do we want a big team or a Navy SEAL? I was always a proponent of wanting it to be something that we can keep the culture. And I thought smaller would be better for that and just attack, right? Yeah. But now I like that, even amongst a smaller team, people can have different goals. But as a team, this is our target, and let's work towards it.
Yeah. Okay. Good. And then I'm gonna let you close up, but say what is the biggest criticism of Stephen Kim?
Whoa, that wasn't on the script.
Yeah,
what? Kyle,
cut it out. What is it?
Well, there's a long list of things.
He's
how much time do we have?
Hey, he's too good. Yeah. Right.
It's like that interview question. What's your greatest weakness? I'm just so committed that
I'm too committed.
I work past out the normal working office hours.
Could he be a little more thoughtful in his approach?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. There are a lot of things that I can list that are amazing about Steve. I think most people who know Steve know these things, and it comes from a place of real care.
Yeah.
There are times where I feel like, and he'll be the first to admit, he can be a bit of a hard ass, But it's because he has this high standard. And this is one of the things that we've butt heads before. You know, we had dinner the other night, and someone had asked Sedge, what makes you a good team member? And, you know, there are so many ways I could have gone. And I thought about it. And for me, I know that I am taking care of the emotional health of some of the team members, you know, and I think that's where we balance each other out, because he's thinking about the business, and he'll always say, Sedge, do me a favor, think about this from my perspective as the business owner. And that's where, like, I'm trying to empathize where he is and put myself in his shoes, right? But yeah, if I were to criticize, sometimes it's like he could be a little bit hard, and I'm worrying about how they're going to take it.
And I think you could make that criticism from a lot of team leaders, like 100%.
Yeah.
Right.
But the thing is, it's the humility of knowing that, hey, I'm not perfect, and I'll never tout the fact that I am perfect, but having a trusted confidant who literally will try, like, he's being polite, but he's like, you're being an asshole.
Yeah.
Not in front of people, but he'll pull me aside and say that. I'm like, thank you. Because I need to know that.
You're like, thank you, but don't ever fucking say that again.
But I need to know that, though, because that honesty is the care and candor. Don't tell me that you love me and you trust me and everything, but you skirt around the tough conversations with me. I got a thick skin. You got to tell me as it is, though. Yeah. That's what I really, really appreciate him. And the thing is, we will disagree on things, and that's okay. That's business. That's life.
Okay.
Right?
So Steve's gonna finish this off. Just anything in terms of coaching, any advice for anybody out there. But if everybody's watching this too throughout this conversation, Steve has a coach. Okay, Steve is a coach. All right, Steve coaches his team. All right, he's not just like this big. Hey, I'm coaching you and that's it. He's got someone who's coaching him, and I'm sure Pantana. If I know Tom Ferry, he's probably got a coach too. So. So just keep that in mind, guys, that there is value here, and these guys are extremely high-producing agents. So if you're taking something from that, you would look at what somebody's doing that's ahead of you and try to mimic that. So take that, and then you go.
Can I do two things?
Yes.
I want to just ask Sedge, because I do want to pump his tires a little bit. Yeah. If he can just share, like, this is going to be great value. What are the two things? So quantify. What are the two things that have helped you to get to where you're at right now? Because I hate saying it, most agents will never get to this point. And I want to fix that. Like, as a community, that's why I want to help as many people as I can. Yeah. But the reality is most people will never hit that. What are the two things from day one to now that you can actually absolutely concretely say, these are the things that have helped me?
Specifically from a coach?
Just anything.
Okay, so from a coach, the number one thing I would say is accountability. Hands down, that's the most important thing. You know, making a promise to you or the team, that's making a promise to myself. Yeah. And if I'm left to my own devices, I know I'm not going to be prospecting Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But if Steve is asking me to take a photo of my schedule and to send it to him on a Sunday night, that is what's going to keep me accountable. And I know it's not for Steve, it's for me. The other thing that would help is, you know, going back to just being curious, you know, not worrying about what people are going to think. I'm asking you questions because I'm genuinely curious. Yeah. You know, I've watched some of your podcasts, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's so good. You're so curious. Yeah. You ask the right questions because you just want to know. Yeah. Right.
Well, it's good because of Kyle. Let's be real, right? Yeah. It's like you're young man. Right. Let's be real right now.
Stay behind the camera, Kyle.
Coaching.
Here it is. This is it. This is your moment of fame.
Is it?
Yeah, because we're done.
I'm nervous. I feel like I'm sweating.
Look into the camera, though. Don't look at me.
Really, why is coaching so important? You have to ask yourself this question. The best of the best in any industry, you look at sports. I love sports. But like a LeBron James, a Michael Jordan. Well, they're the best of the best because they have multiple coaches. You look at Tom Ferry. I think he has like 4 or 5 coaches. Tony Robbins has coaches. These are the people, for all intents and purposes, they've made it. Yet they still hold a tight group of coaches to help them. Why? It's accountability. Although you think you operate this way, and maybe you do operate this way, if you want to grow, not only as a person, but in the business, even personally, you need a coach to help keep the guardrails there on a weekly basis. There is no such thing as too many check-ins. There isn't. If it's care and candor and you have the guardrails and you understand the concept of accountability, You will grow. You will be forced to either grow or leave. So coaching works.
Be great, be kind,
Be
everybody.
great, be kind.
Sedge?
Work hard, be kind.
All right, guys, that was awesome.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Yeah, that was great.
That was good. That was really
Thanks
good.
for having us.